Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Angels, Fairies, and Witches. I am Michele. My co host Laura is still unavailable. She's been doing a lot of Reiki sessions. Um, so hopefully she'll be with us next time. What I've been doing these previous two episodes is I was reading some questions from our viewer mail, and I'm still not done. I hope this is not becoming boring. But we have a few more questions. These are what I think are pretty commonly asked questions. So I want to finish up with this. The last episode, right before we were finishing, let's see, a viewer named Lorraine had asked if fairies exist. And I said, absolutely. I want to start talking a little bit more, though, about the supernatural. Because beings that you consider supernatural, we're not really that different. Fairies exist, vampires exist, werewolves exist, witches exist. But I'm going to tell you some truths about what they're all about. It's been suggested, if you look around at your friends, your family, neighbors, coworkers, our souls originate from all different origins. A soul of earthbound origin are the people, and they may be perfectly nice people. They go to school, they go to college, they get married, they have kids, they buy a house, they buy a car, they retire, they go to Florida. Good lives, normal lives, fine. They just don't do anything extra that puts some life back into the world. There are other souls, sometimes referred to as light workers. Those are the souls that come from some other different realms, and they lead the same types of lives, but they're very interested in helping people, the environment, all aspects of spirituality, healing, things like that. So I'd like to just touch on this a little, because I think what you consider supernatural, you're going to find very, very normal. So I have here a few things I just want to share with you. This is a book. It's a pocket-sized book by one of my favorite authors. This is Dr. Doreen Virtue, and it's called Realms of the Earth Angels. You can get this, I think, pretty much at any Barnes & Noble. So basically what she talks about is souls that have incarnated through different realms. They're here in human form. Let's not forget that. We're all in human form. But have a higher mission. And that's a lot of what Angels, Fairies, and Witches is about, getting you to find your higher mission. So the first chapter, I'm really going to wait until Laura gets back to discuss this, but it's the incarnated angels, okay? In terms of the incarnated angels, their overall energy would be considered sweet and loving. They have the physical characteristics of beautiful cherubic faces with large bodies. They tend to focus on healing and service work, keeping relationships peaceful and happy. These are also members of the group that tend to with someone's potential and try to coach the person to greatness. Moreover, they tend to have codependent relationships with addicts and alcoholics, and they tend to stay in relationships much longer than they ever would. That's basically the realm of the incarnated angel. So next up we have the elementals, which are the fairies, pixies, gnomes. Their overall energy is warm and playful and a little bit mischievous. And as I'm going through these categories, think about yourself or think about even people that you know. Physically, the incarnated elementals look like larger versions of fairies. So, the little upturned nose, sometimes they'll have the red hair or freckles. No matter how old they may be, they still maintain a look of youth and playfulness. The elementals tend to focus on teaching, entertaining, the arts, and above all else, the environment. Next, we have the star people. This particular realm, their overall energy is sort of helpful but cool and detached. They have a definite interest in astronomy and planetary things. Their physical characteristics is they tend to be tall and lanky, often with very thin bodies, like a swimmer's build. And they tend to focus on energy healing, particularly Reiki, technological advances, and being helpful as needed. They don't jump in there and try to rescue everybody like the incarnated angels. They're a little bit more detached. And the last realm that I'm going to talk about from this book are the wise ones. Their energy is very serious, intense, and kind of regal. Physically, front page, they tend to have long faces, faraway expressions, tend to wear dark colored flowing shirts and dresses, and have often long and sometimes prematurely gray hair. My luck, right? Oh, actually, I wanted to mention earlier, you don't have to change your channel. Change the color dial. My hair is purple, but we'll get into that. So this is the Earth Angels from Dr. Doreen Virtue. Moreover, I want to describe some of the things that Hollywood has decided to make movies about recently. Werewolves, vampires, fairies, and witches. So I'm going to read to you a little bit about a werewolf's energy. And again, think about yourself, think about the people you know. Werewolves. Their circle of friends are small. They are not easy to get to know. They're viewed as very private. Given the choice, they'd rather stay home than be out in a crowd. They are not easily intimidated and seldom care what others think of them. Reality is that werewolves are very loyal to the select few. They don't talk a lot, but when they do, it's certainly worth listening. They have good instincts and are known to be people watchers. They're very protective. They can be considered moody and dark and don't really care to explain themselves, but that's really just the outer shell. Vampires are always noticed. They think fast, act even faster. They are proud. They never shy away from risk. They're very self-confident. While at times they appear as stoic as werewolves, the vampires are actually bold creatures that don't mind the spotlight. Sometimes they're often seen as somebody who's hard to love, but their protective nature tends to make those they care about make them feel very needed. They have a tendency to be honest, sometimes maybe too honest. When provoked, they hold nothing back. Thing to remember about the vampires is that they were not born this strong, but were forced to become that way because of some traumatic experience in life. And I'm just giving you a very brief recap of all of these personality types. The next one are fairies. They're people persons, people pleasers. That's pretty much what I wanted to say. They can be very colorful and striking. They're mischievous. They're fun. Everybody loves them. But while their personality makes them come off as someone you'd never have to fear, in truth, their ability to read people and to subtly control other people's emotions can be one of the most frightening powers of all. I know this to be true, but in a different way. Nothing negative. None of this is anything negative. With the fairy energy, they can walk into a room and with a few words, a look, perhaps a touch, they can raise people's level of inspiration, motivation. They bring about joy to every situation. And like I was talking about with the incarnated elementals, I talk mostly about the fairies, but it's not chiefly about that. Very, very concerned with environmental issues. These people have to be out in nature. They may have to live by the ocean, by the forest. It's really important for them to spend as much time in fresh air as possible. That was the fairies. And now the witches, which I could talk about forever, but I'm just going to read what it says here. Witches can be flirty, colorful, and loads of fun. Oh, it's so true. Or they can be dark and mysterious and a little frightening, all depending on their mood. They believe in magic and fate, in good and evil. They have a knack for the dramatic that shows in everything from their language to their apparel, apparently also to their hair color. Their moods are often dictated by uncontrollable forces that no one else understands. You all hear that? That's not me being bitchy. That is the uncontrollable forces that are dictating my moods. Well, at least that's what I'm going to claim. They're the ones reading tea leaves, tarot cards, making predictions for others. They have good internal instincts. They're sensitive to others' feelings. They have specific likes and dislikes and aren't afraid to tell you about them. They have the ability to like people for who they are, and for that reason, they have all types of friends. They'll love you in spite of your flaws, but that doesn't mean they won't point out your defects. And love this last sentence. A witch can take an ordinary day or an event and turn it into something exciting and memorable just by turning on her charm. Love that. Love that. For more information, I don't know if you want to zoom in on this. It's on the internet somewhere. It's capital C, Hunters, CC Hunters, Supernatural Personality Traits. I don't know who CC Hunter is, maybe an author but and there was more than this. I just kind of had pulled this off in a rush. So, again, I'm going back to the original question of do fairies exist? They absolutely do, but they also exist in human form as well. So start thinking about yourself, your family, your friends, people that you know. If you find that somebody fits in any of these categories, and sometimes you can actually be in more than one. I definitely have sort of two components, part witch, well, witch is the predominant, but also some fairy aspect as well, because truly witchcraft is very serious to the point that it can almost be kind of somber. Nothing dark, nothing bad, but, a little. Whereas the fairy element comes in that's more fun, more lighter energy. The reason that I wear this fairy dust that I make, and in coming episodes I'll show you how to make it, very easy. I wear it as a reminder to myself, what is the message of the fairies, Put more light into the world. Smile more, frown less. Lighten up, people. Don't take everything so seriously. Have a glass of wine for breakfast on a Saturday. Ooh, did I say that? I've never done that before. But start looking around you and see that the people that are really concerned with humanity, environment, helping, healing, giving, start to notice if they're not also having some of these supernatural traits. Can guarantee they do. Laura has this exercise. I should probably leave this to her, that she shows people. She is mostly an incarnated angel. Mostly. And what she shows her clients is you kind of go up against a wall and you go like that to see if you can feel your wings. It's an interesting trick. Try it at home. I don't know if I'm giving you all the detail. But put your back up against whatever wall is in your house. Kind of rub your shoulders around, or maybe be about an inch away. It's been suggested that if you have fairy wings, they'll feel like big feathery wings. If you have more fairy realm in you, they're almost smaller, like butterfly wings. And if you're a witch, you don't have wings at all, and apparently no halo. But we have broomsticks. Don't need the wings. So I just want to finish with these questions. Wendy had called and she asked, what is a trance or what is a trance medium? Well, Wendy, that's a fancy word for a medium. It's all basically the same. When I do mediumship, I'm just listening to what the deceased person is saying or telepathically communicating to me, objects he's showing, different sense like the nose sense. A trance medium is somebody that will put themselves into such a deep meditative state that they're literally, it's almost like they hypnotize themselves. Now, I'll be honest, I've done that a total of twice in my long history of doing this. Uh, and the reason I did it on both occasions, but they were about 5 years apart, is that I was asked to look into two different cases, but they were the same thing about missing children. And before I did the trance, I tried to access any possible information from the universe. And I couldn't. I think maybe because as a mother myself, all I could think about were the poor parents with this missing child. So I couldn't be objective enough to be useful. So I actually had a friend of mine put me into a trance. It's 15 to 20 minutes of really deep breathing to get you to such a level that you're practically unconscious. And I didn't know this, but it turns out once I went into this trance state, because when I came out of it, I had no recollection of what had happened. Apparently, I went a little slack, so yeah, I know it's not about how I look, but, and anyway, the very, very, very good news is that on both of these occasions, while in a trance, while in that state of sedation almost, I was able to access enough information and provide it that I believe these children were found. So, you know, that's something that if you wish to look into, again, there's absolutely um, nothing dark about it. You can't get stuck there, nothing can happen. Um, but it's not for everybody, but there are a lot of books written on the subject. So that's a trance or a trance medium. And Pat had a question about past lives, people and fears and talents. Um, and this is something I'm just giving some very brief answers to this because these are going to be in episodes of future shows because there's a lot to say on the subject. So I don't really know how her question was worded here, but she had questions about past lives. Um, a lot of religions believe in reincarnation, and a lot of people that aren't religious believe in reincarnation, that you don't just come here once and that's it. Um, this is where the term soulmates come from. I've said in previous episodes, I find that word's kind of it's kind of overused and it's incorrectly used. You always find soulmates with every incarnation that you come back. Chances of it being romantic, well, that would be ideal, but in general, we just tend to regroup with friends and family. Sometimes it's not so good. Sometimes it's karmic lessons that you have to relearn. Um, Fears and talents, I'll spend just a minute talking about that. If, let's say, God forbid, but let's say you were 10 years old and you almost drowned. And so, ever since that time, you're afraid of water. That's not a past life fear. That's a very real fear because it happened to you in this lifetime and you still remember it. But if you have something that you fear, like, I don't like spiders, but I'm not terrified of them. If you have anything that you are so deeply terrified of, chances are that's something that's carried over from a past life. Um, that's the bad stuff. The good stuff is you also carry over talents and abilities and passions. You think about maybe some of you out there are artists and it's just been something you've been able to do automatically, like breathing, since you were a child, whereas other people would have to take art classes for years and years and years to get up to your ability. Well, chances are that art ability was something that carried over from a past life. Again, there's a lot of books written on past life regression. One of my favorite authors is Dr. Brian Weiss, who 25 years ago wrote this breakthrough book. I wish I had it to show to you, but every time I read a good book, I give it away and have to keep getting new ones. But it's called Many Lives, Many Masters. And just very briefly, he was, well, he was the head of, I don't know, Columbia Medical. I'm probably getting that wrong. Sorry, Dr. Weiss. But he was a brilliant man and the head of the psychology department. And one day, some young woman came to him, and she, for someone in her mid to late 20s, she was plagued by so many fears. She was practically paralyzed by them, afraid of absolutely everything. And so he started doing conventional talk therapy. Nothing was working. So he was also a trained hypnotist, hypnosis. It sounds like a magician, but it's something that a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists use. So we put her under hypnosis, and of course she said, "Oh no, I can't be hypnotized." And of course in 5 minutes she was. But while she was under hypnosis, she started talking about, oh, when I lived in Peru in the year 800, and she started having all of these past life memories, and this was completely foreign to him. He was a man of science. He didn't believe any of this happened. And the book, which is absolutely fascinating, as you read through, eventually he can't turn his back on this anymore, because every time she touches on a life, for example, there was a life that she had where she drowned hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And as soon as she looked at that life, when she came out of the hypnosis, she no longer feared the water. So, and also while she was under, she encountered some of her family members from this lifetime. She apparently was dating a guy, and it was a very difficult relationship. And when she went back to another past life, he was there, and it was a difficult relationship. So anyway, I think I've pretty much answered. It's taken me 3 episodes, but I think I've pretty much answered most all of the viewer mail. So again, just very briefly to recap, is witchcraft evil? No. Do the dead watch you in the shower? I'm not making this up. People ask these questions. No. Can spirits harm you? No. They can, try to freak you out and move stuff and whistle and call and give you a little touch. They cannot harm you. The difference between a ghost and a spirit. Ghosts really have not accepted the fact that they're dead, and they like to remain in the same place. But again, even a ghost can't harm you. Whereas spirits are around all the time. Are all dreams prophetic? No. Sometimes it's just a bad burrito. But if your dreams are between the hours of 2:30 a.m. and 4 a.m., and they're vivid in color and content, write it down, because chances are that is a prophetic or precognitive dream. The difference between witchcraft and sorcery? Not much. Sorcery is used in witchcraft. It's knowing how to work with different elements, the environment, nature, the timing of the moon cycles. It's all basically the same. How do the dead communicate? So many ways. They come to you in dreams. They whisper your name. They put a song on the radio as a message for you. You can sense that they're around. You can see them. They move very quickly out of the corner of your eye. I did mention a cautionary word about psychics. Before you ever go see any psychic, please make sure they're reputable, that they're ethical. Maybe if you have a friend that's recommending them, that it has a really good experience. I don't really believe any psychic or tarot card reader should really charge any more than maybe $25. Unfortunately, I've known a lot of people that have been bilked out of a lot of money by these charlatans. Boy, that really steams me, But anyway, if you're going to see a psychic, come see me first. Or if you're going to see anybody else, please make sure that they're reputable and ethical. Just breezing through all these questions that our viewers had. How do spirits get into your house, and how do you get rid of them? Anything that you bring in, whether it's items from a yard sale, a flea market, spirits that just attach themselves to you, that like your energy, spirits that may be connected on the land where your house or apartment is. How do you get rid of them? Light a candle. I always like white, just nice universal color, and ask them to go. It's as simple as that. Hey, time for you to move on. Are pets psychic? You betcha. The next time you see your cat, your dog, your bird, well, it's Queens Public Television. That'd probably be the only animals you have. Although in Manhattan 2 years ago, somebody had a tiger. Anyway, anytime you see your cat, your dog, or your bird, all of a sudden look at something, run out of the room, bark at something that's not there, hiss at something that's not there, it's a spirit. And it's nothing bad. It's just the spiritual energy vibes a little bit differently than human energy. And so animals aren't necessarily used to it. They freak out a little. And not just animals, people do that too. Folks, there's nothing to fear. You're fearing what you don't know. So watch this show and learn about the spirits and let them into your house and communicate with them. No worries. Okay, somebody wanted to know about imaginary friends. Just like pets, your children, babies, toddlers, these aren't imaginary friends. They're probably deceased loved ones, angels, and there was a bunch of other questions. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I really hope Laura gets back here soon. So for Angels, Fairies, and Witches, I'm Michele saying have a blessed evening. Thank you.